Filmfest DC is pleased to bring you this conversation with the incomparable Avi Mograbi, director of the first 54 years an abbreviated manual for military occupation, which is having its U.S. premiere in our Justice Matters section. My name is Linda Blackaby, and I'm a senior programmer. And as curator of Justice Matters, I want to thank the Cross Currents Foundation for their support. I'm in San Francisco and acknowledge this location on the unceded territories of the Ramaytush Ohlone, who, along with hundreds of other native tribes, have resided in California for thousands of years. Many Ohlone continue to call the Bay Area home and contribute to the cultural mix here today. Avi Mograbi is one of Israel's most distinguished artists and filmmakers. His first feature film, 1997's Have I Learned to Overcome My Fear and Love Ariel Sharon, became prominent on the world stage and was the first Mograbi film I saw. Avi's films and video exhibitions travel worldwide, where he is known for his unwavering commitment to social, cultural, and political justice in the Middle East. His films have garnered numerous awards. Since 1999, he's taught documentary and experimental film at Tel Aviv University and the Bezalel Academy of Art and Design in Jerusalem. Our host, moderator, questioner today is Thomas Keenan. Thank you, Thomas, for being here. He teaches in and directs the human rights program at Bard College and has worked closely with Bard's Palestinian partners at Al-Quds University in their joint degree program at Al-Quds Bard College in the West Bank. He's currently involved in the creation of a new, and I would think much needed, Center for Human Rights in the Arts as part of the Open Society University Network. It'll include an MA program in Human Rights and Arts. They'll begin this fall. Among his writings, many writings, are the books Fables of Responsibility in 1997 and Mengele's Skull with Eval Weissman in 2012. So thank you both for being here, and please have your discourse now.
Thanks for the invitation to do this. And hi, Avi. Nice to see you back in your living room again.
Hi, Tom. Looking forward to seeing you here again soon, hopefully.
That would be really nice. So first of all, congratulations on this film. I know it's been quite a while in the works, and it was really exciting to see it and to get the chance to talk with you about it. So I know the film comes, and particularly at this moment, you know, it's, I don't know whether it's good timing or bad timing, but it's certainly timing that we would have this film arrive at the moment when it has. I know it comes out of your experience with Breaking the Silence, and I wonder if maybe for the benefit of an audience which may not know much about the Israeli human rights and activist landscape, you could say a little bit just to get us started about Breaking the Silence and locate this film maybe in the work that you've done with them over all these years.
Sure. Breaking the Silence is an organization of veteran soldiers, Israeli veteran soldiers, that was founded in 2004. I'm one of the founders, and I'm on the board of directors of the organization since. And Breaking the Silence has taken the mission to make the occupation visible to Israelis and others. As you know, for so many years, all governments, both left and right, has made enormous efforts to turn the occupation transparent not in the sense that you know what's happening behind the glass, but transparent that you see through it as if it doesn't exist. And Breaking the Silence has decided to challenge this situation. And what we're doing is collecting testimonies from soldiers who served in the occupied territories in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, and publish them in different ways. Now, originally, Breaking the Silence started working with people of their generation, started collecting testimonies of their own peers and themselves, since people who served in the occupied territories since 2000, the year 2000. But about 4 years ago, we started the project of collecting testimonies from veteran soldiers who served in the occupied territories since the beginning of the occupation, since 1967. It's 54 years now. So, and me as the filmmaker in the board, when we didn't know yet what to do with this collection, I started editing the different testimonies to single stories so that we could watch them and make decisions what to do with them or how to publish them. And while doing that, I realized that there was a larger scope story to be told than the way that Breaking the Silence publishes single or compilation of testimonies. And I asked my colleagues to allow me to make a film out of the whole collection, not a Breaking the Silence film, but an Avi Mograbi film. Of course, not denying the contribution of Breaking the Silence. All the testimonies were collected by them and not by me, but not to as a film that would be marked as a Breaking the Silence film, but rather as a Mograbi film.
One of the things that I've always really appreciated and admired about the Breaking the Silence reporting strategy, say, is what you could call something like the power of abstraction. They take this enormous body of testimonies and eyewitness reports, all of which are grounded in individual experiences, things that happen to the soldiers, the ex-soldiers who are telling them. And then they kind of abstract and systematize and in a way show the playbook behind the things that happened in single places or at single moments. It seems to me like you're adopting that strategy here as you produce this thing that you call a manual. It's as if you're working with the evidence to kind of reverse engineer the diagram or the procedural playbook that has given rise to so many things. So it felt to me like it really was a film very much in the spirit of Breaking the Silence and not just based on its archive. Could you talk a little bit about how you understand this manual? It's like a user's guide to how to do such a thing as conduct a military occupation.
Well, yes. First of all, indeed, the manual is in the spirit of Breaking the Silence. The book we published called Our Harsh Logic, that was also published in the US. That was a huge compilation of testimonies from the year 2000 and on, organized in 4 headings, was definitely, in retrospect, an inspiration. Because the book really takes certain large themes and index them with using testimonies of soldiers. But you know, the interesting thing is that this film started in a very different way. I sort of wanted to, in the beginning, I thought I would do an archive. Just testimony after testimony after testimony after testimony, and this will be the film, maybe a very exhaustive film. And when I realized that this was maybe could serve those occupation addicts like yourself, but may miss the general public, I decided to create. This is how the manual was born, because the testimonies were collected under themes anyway. of different mechanisms, different procedures, different situations. And so I decided to imagine a manual that may or may not exist in the archive of the headquarters of the Israeli military, a manual that provides mechanisms, advices, procedures of how to maintain this extremely long occupation. And once having done that, I realized that there was a need for an expert to lead the viewers within the manual, and realizing that nobody from the establishment, nobody that was really involved in creating this abstract of how to, or not only how to, but also why to maintain an occupation, nobody of those would agree to collaborate with me, definitely not with testimonies of breaking the silence. And we should maybe add that breaking the silence in Israel is considered the Satan Nouveau, the new Satan. Many times government ministers and the prime minister himself portray us as traitors. I had to find another expert, and it was he was sitting right here. I volunteered again. Well, our viewers should know that I have the tendency to stick my red nose to the lens in several of my films. So but this time I also decided to play a role of if you wish. I hope you agree, a Machiavellic role, someone who's highly cynical about the outcomes of oppressing another people, someone who's goal targeted, and what it means to those under the occupation means nothing for this person. And this is why I grew this strange beard. I thought it will provide me some kind of maybe Afrikaner presence or something like that. You don't have to necessarily agree with that, but I guess that the instructor in me, the beard helped the instructor in me come out.
I think it was a very successful costume, the beard, yes. And the cigarette, by the way. So, the manual is a kind of after the fact, reverse engineered teaching tool. And then you teach it as well, right? So it's a didactic film. I was really struck by the you that you employ when you're engaged in this instruction. The you seems to be the Israeli state. You offer kind of advice, sometimes warnings, and a more or less chronological narrative. But I wonder why you chose to address it in that way, as opposed to a straightforward, third person description based on the manual that you had come up with. Why the direct address to a second party?
Well, because I realized that if you wish to have your own occupation, then I should talk directly to you. And, by the way, the instructor mentions Israel and Palestine only in one of the first sentences. But from then on, he moves to talk about an occupation, a certain kind of occupation, a certain settler colonialist occupation, but the Israel and Palestine are mentioned only in the narration that is done by another person, by a woman, my partner. She's the narrator. So the instructor really is trying to supposedly avoid the concrete situation of the occupation of Israel of the Palestinian territories, and try to engage you in what an occupation is and how to do the occupation, and of course the whys, the why to do or the why to maintain an occupation. So I thought this was a dramatic position that, well, the truth is that I would have felt really stupid to lecture this seriously. I mean, the position of the instructor and the one-on-one talk of the instructor with the viewer, I think provides a certain irony to what he says, and I hope that most viewers will see that I'm not a big supporter of the occupation. I once told you, the occupation has made me a fortune or made a big career for me with my films, but I'm not a supporter of the occupation. So I think the irony is needed there to help draw the viewer to my side.
Yeah, your self-description as Machiavellic and cynical and ironic, I think that character comes through very clearly here. And I take your point about the to whom the speaker addresses himself. And I think that does actually run in the same vein as the breaking the silence logic of an abstraction of a sort of general set of techniques or procedures which are applicable in principle in all sorts of places. And certainly there are historical precedents and followers, antecedents for the techniques that you've described. So that's the
so excuse me, Tom. In a previous Zoom conversation last week with producers and directors, in the Q&A part, an Indian producer asked to comment, and he said, "This is exactly what is happening in Kashmir. Yeah. This is you didn't make anything up, and anything that is that you tell about the Israeli occupation of Palestine applies completely to the situation in Kashmir." So, and I mean, this was number one comment, number one compliment. I mean, this is exactly what's the idea. The instructor, the approach that deals with an occupation and not with the Israeli occupation. The idea was to turn this to universalize my dissertation. So I think. At least for some people, it worked.
Yeah, I had Northern Ireland on my mind, but I think we could multiply the places where the playbook has been deployed. So the playbook is all about tactics, but I was really struck by the fact that you weren't shy about identifying what the strategic goal of the tactics is, and you name it as seizure, expropriation, appropriation, and so on. And that struck me as a strong political decision that you were making to name the end goal to which the tactics are being deployed. Do you want to say something about that? Because it's 54 years in which the goal has not been accomplished, at least not entirely accomplished, in the case study which you show us. And I think toward the end of the film, I actually copied this down. You talked about in your historical narrative of the three phases and so on. You talk about the present moment when it seems like the tactics have kind of reduced or expanded to the aim of simply causing harm, shedding blood, and so on. And you say it's a very undesirable moment, but it has to be taken into account. And there's a caution there, or there's a call for self-reflection in that self-reflection on the part of the addressee. I don't know. I just wanted to hear you talk a little bit more about your sense of like where we are after the 54 years and what this going back through the techniques tells us about how well or how badly they've succeeded in advancing the strategic goal.
Well, first of all, it was very important to mention the reason why all this is happening. For many, many years, all Israeli governments have tried to create the notion for us Israelis and others that the occupation is necessary to defend our country. And this is something that needed to be taken off the table. The first settlements, Jewish settlements in the occupied territories were founded a couple of months after the '67 war, when Israel created a chain of settlements along the Jordan River and thus marking its desired new border. So, and at the same time, they would say, yes, but these are not for appropriating the land. These are settlements that are needed for our security. You know, when Israel needed to secure its border, or at the time border with Egypt along the Suez Canal, it created a chain of army settlements, of not civilian settlements, and very much protected settlements. So I don't buy, or it's a little naive to buy this position. Now,
that's what I meant by saying that it was a very strong, like you're decisive here in this film about what the point of all of this is.
Of course, yeah. But this is the point. There couldn't be any other point. What was the century plan of President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu? It was about annexing a big part of the West Bank to Israel, contrary to international law and contrary to all other all previous statements of prime ministers and presidents of Israel and the U.S. So and this was like for a very short moment, suddenly they admitted the big goal. Now, you may say that the goal was not achieved in 54 years, but if you look at the map of the West Bank, and you see the really more than 160 small enclaves that the Palestinians living in the West Bank are imprisoned in, and the enormous efforts one has to take in order to travel very simply from one place to another for school, for health, for job, for anything, that is all dependent on the will of the military governor. You look at this incredible network of more than 250 settlements with the housing more than 600,000 Israelis. In the West Bank, we have about 3.5 million Palestinians and 600,000 Israelis. You understand that in a strange way, maybe the goal was not accomplished, but it can also not be, the situation cannot be reversed. And the dream, maybe the goal, the number one goal is accomplished. The dream of the two-state solution is gone. It's erased, deleted, doesn't exist anymore. So let's see what happens in the next 54 years.
So I agree with you completely, but what does the narrator mean when he says we've reached a very undesirable moment and it has to be taken into account? What comes next?
Look at what happened in this recent Gaza assault on Gaza a couple of weeks ago. There was nothing to gain there for nobody on both sides. No, nothing to gain but to shed blood, to cause harm to the other side, and show one's muscles. The numbers of dead is not counted by either side. Nor our dead, nor their dead. Neither of the sides care about those who died, and of course, look. For me, you earlier asked if this film comes out on a good timing. First of all, there isn't a bad timing to talk about the occupation. But really, when you look at the last footage of the film, footage from 2014, footage taken by soldiers while in service in Gaza in Operation Protective Edge, and you hear their voices behind the camera when their cannon or whatever it was, missile, tank, blows up a house. You hear their voices. You realize that we have reached a point where causing pain, destruction, and shedding blood is the only goal.
So it's become a goal, not just a tactic.
Yeah, I think it has.
Yeah. So that's
if it wasn't a goal, Gaza would not have been under siege since 2007. How many years is that? 14 years. Mm-hmm. Gaza is under total siege. Everything, the water, the food, all materials, health, everything is controlled by Israel. Even the I don't know how you call it in English. The population's registration is handled by Israel. If you are a Gaza person, that a West Bank Palestinian that moved to Gaza, and you want to correct your registration to Gaza, you cannot. Or in the West Bank either. Israel controls the population registration. Everything is controlled by Israel. Israel says, okay, we have withdrawn from Gaza. We have not withdrawn. We are all around it, holding it under severe siege. Just today, there is in the newspaper a story about how people with cancer at critical situations are not allowed to go to hospitals in the West Bank for treatment.
Okay. You mentioned international law a couple of minutes ago. And when causing pain or killing your enemy becomes a goal rather than just a tactic in the accomplishment of a military objective, you might, and particularly when the enemy we're talking about are civilians, you could well be in the zone of war crimes and international criminal law. And one of your witnesses actually talks about that, right? He says that something might be added to his list of war crimes.
Yes.
I wonder what, and so we probably have to wrap up our conversation soon, but thinking about the kind of dispassionate way, ironic but still dispassionate way in which you or your narrator present evidence here, there is a bit of a juridical feeling sometimes to the way the testimonial evidence is deployed, and then it does get kind of interpreted or wrapped up a little bit when one of those perpetrators actually names what it is that is being testified to. So I wonder if you could say a little bit about the possible role of international criminal proceedings in this situation, because it does, even though it's obviously not apolitical, it does have there's another route of access to the battle space, as it were, that criminal proceedings might provide, that functions maybe somewhat differently than the classic political pressure on one side or the other in a conflict.
Yes, well, as our viewers may well know, the ICC, the International Criminal Court, has decided to start an investigation of the actions of Israel and Palestinians under this umbrella of the occupation. And well, I'll tell you an anecdote, a recent anecdote. In the past few weeks, Israeli television transmitted two research programs of actions taken by Israeli soldiers in the occupied territories. One program was about a revenge operation, which I made a film about, called Z-32, where Israeli elite units targeted innocent, as much as they knew, Palestinian policemen and killed them, assassinated them. And the other program dealt with snipers shooting on the border between Gaza and Israel, shooting demonstrators in the demonstrations there a year ago, this is a series of demonstrations that lasted about a year. Now, the interesting thing was that most of the witnesses in those programs were exposed. And especially the sniper program is interesting because this sniper issue is one of the issues that the ICC has chosen to investigate. And you ask yourself, and you know, Israel is all the time accusing, for instance, breaking the silence, that we collect testimonies so that the Supreme Court will indict our soldiers. And suddenly, and it was very clear, by the way, in both programs that the army has given full support to the producers because there were materials there that only the army could provide, some thermic cameras, etc. Nothing that I hold in my drawer. And you ask yourself, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? And there are two options. Well, there are two theories. One is mine and one isn't. My good friend, Mickey Kratzman, who is also on the board of Breaking the Silence, says that this is a way of Israel to normalize the war crimes, so that when it reaches the point where the ICC decides to indict Israelis, nobody will be surprised that this will already be internalized, that we are committing war crimes. My theory is harsher than that. I think that Israel actually wants the ICC to indict those soldiers that were exposed with identity, with their face and name. They want them to be indicted and thus start a campaign to destroy and eliminate the ICC, which is a very fragile organization. I don't know if I answered your question, but I provided some info.
Yes, you certainly testified to the live character of the ICC issue right now. So, which I have to say, regardless of which of your stories, which of the interpretations is correct, in a way, it's evidence of the political meaningfulness of at least this branch of human rights activism. So, not that anybody's looking for silver linings here, but nevertheless. Interesting. So on that, I don't know, upbeat, downbeat, side beat note, but it's been really great talking with you, and I can't wait to be doing it in the living room that you're currently sitting in.
Thank you, Tom, for this conversation, and I hope we'll have an opportunity to do it in person soon. And either you'll come over or I will in my turn. And thank you, Linda, for the kind invitation.
Yes, thank you to the DC Film Fest.
Yeah, well, thank you both very much. I think this conversation has adequate gravitas for the film and for the situation. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.